Hello and welcome to Quarter 2 English 12B. I'm Jackie and I'm going to be a teacher for English 12. So basically the way that things are going to work is I'm going to cover the information that you need to help you out on mastery tests, the unit activities, most importantly your lesson activities, so that you can understand the material better and do a good job. You'll be able to see our pacing guide in Google Classroom, so please take a look at that to know what I expect you to have done before class. You should always have the tutorial done for what we're going to cover. You can skip the lesson activities and go back to them after, but you need to read through the tutorial before coming to class, because I am not going to go over the tutorial unless it directly pertains to the information that you need to know to be able to complete the lesson activities. So we're going to start just right off the bat here with an introduction to Romanticism. So this one has 4 different questions that we're going to look at, and we're going to read some poems. So this activity asks us to read Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard, and it's a poem about death that doesn't mention God or religion, and so we're going to kind of look at why that is. Part B asks us to rewrite or paraphrase My Heart Leaps Up by William Wordsworth in more common everyday language, and then you're going to write about how that helps you understand the poem and major themes and central idea. And then we're going to look at and compare Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard to Tintern Abbey, and how they look at nature. And then we'll just talk about the vocabulary exercise at the end. So the first one that we're going to read is Elegy Written in a Churchyard. It's kind of a long ballad. All right, I just like to know where the end is. Okay. Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard by Thomas Gray. The curfew tolls the knell of parting day, the lowing herd wins slowly o'er the lea, the ploughman homeward plods his weary way, and leaves the world to darkness and to me. Now fades the glimmering landscape on the sight, and all the air a solemn stillness holds, save where the beetle wheels his droning flight, and drowsy tinklings lull the distant folds. Save that from yonder ivy-mantled tower, the moping owl does to the moon complain of such as wandering near her sacred bower molest her ancient solitary reign. Beneath those rugged elms that yew trees shade, where heaves the turf in many a mouldering heap, each in his narrow cell forever laid, the rude forefathers of the hamlet sleep. The breezy call of incest-breathing morn, the shallow twittering from the straw-built shed, the cock-shrill clarion or the echoing horn, no more shall rouse them from their lowly bed. For them no more the blazing hearth shall burn, or busy housewife ply her evening care, nor children run to lisp their sire's return, or climb his knee to envied kiss to share. Off did the harvest to their sickle yield, their furrow off the stubborn glebe has broke. How jocund did they drive their team afield, how bowed the woods beneath their sturdy stroke. Let not ambition mock their useful toil, their homely joys and destiny obscure, nor grandeur hear with a disdainful smile the short and simple annals of the poor. The boast of heraldry, the pomp of power, and all that beauty, all that wealth ever gave, awaits alike the inevitable hour, the paths of glory lead but to the grave. Nor you, ye proud, impute to these the fault, if memory over their tomb nor trophies raise, where through the long-drawn aisle and fretted vault, the pealing anthem swells the note of praise. Can storied urn or animated bust back to its mansion call the fleeting breath? Can honor's voice provoke the silent dust, or flattery soothe the dull cold ear of death? Perhaps in this neglected spot is laid some heart once pregnant with celestial fire, hands that the rod of empire might have swayed, or walked to ecstasy the living lyre. But knowledge to their eyes her ample page, rich with the spoils of time, did never unroll. Chill penury repressed their noble rage, and froze the genial current of the soul. Full many a gem of purest rays serene, the dark unfathomed caves of oceans bear. Full many a flower is born to blush unseen, and waste its sweetness on the desert air. Some village Hampden that with dauntless breast the little tyrant of his fields withstood. Some mute inglorious Milton here may rest, some Cromwell guiltless of his country's blood. The applause of listening senates to command, the threats of pain and ruin to despise, to scatter plenty over a smiling land, and read their history in a nation's eyes. Their lot forbade nor circumscribed alone their growing virtues, but their crimes confide, forbade to wade through slaughter to a throne, and shut the gates of mercy on mankind. The struggling pangs of conscious truth to hide, to quench the blushes of ingenuous shame, or heap the shrine of luxury and pride with incense kindled at the muse's flame. Far from the maddening crowd's ignoble strife, their sober wishes never learn to stray. Along the cool sequestered vale of life, they keep the noiseless tenor of their way. Yet even these bones from insult to protect, some frail memorial still erected nigh, with uncouth rhymes and shapeless sculpture decked, implores the passing tribute of a sigh. Their name, their years, spelt by the unlettered muse, the place of fame and elegy supply, and many a holy text around she strews, that teach the rustic moralist to die. For who to dumb forgetfulness a prey, this pleasing anxious being ever resigned, left the warm precincts of the cheerful day, nor cast one longing, lingering look behind. On some fond breast the parting soul relies, some pious drops the closing eye requires. Even from the tomb the voice of nature cries, even in our ash live their wonted fires. For thee, who mindful of the unhonored dead, dost in these lines their artless tale relate, if chance, by lonely contemplation led, some kindred spirit shall inquire thy fate. Haply some hoary-headed swain may say, oft have we seen him at the peep of dawn, brushing with hasty steps the dews away, to meet the sun upon the upland lawn. There at the foot of yonder nodding beech, that wreathes its old fantastic roots so high, his listless length at noontide would he stretch, and pore upon the brook that babbles by. Hard by yon wood, now frowning as in scorn, muttering his wayward fancies he would rove, now drooping woeful wan, like one forlorn, or crazed with care, or crossed in hopeless love. One morn I missed him on the customed hill, along the heath, and near his favorite tree. Another came, nor yet beside the rill, nor up the lawn, nor at the wood was he. The next with dirges due in sad array, slow through the church-way path we saw him borne. Approach and read, for thou canst read the lay, graved on the stone beneath age yon thorn, the epitaph. So this would be like what's on the gravestone, what they're talking about there. Here rests his head upon the lap of earth, a youth to fortune and to fame unknown. Fair science frowned not on his humble birth, and melancholy marked him for her own. Large was his bounty, and his soul sincere, heaven did a recompenses largely send. He gave to misery all he had, a tear, he gained from heaven, 'twas all he wished, a friend. No farther seeks his merits to disclose, or draw his frailties from dread abode. There they alike in trembling hope repose, the bosom of his Father and his God. Like I said, long poem. Okay, so knowing that this poem is a romantic poem, why might he have chosen not to bring formal religion into it? So again, this is where it becomes really important that you've done the tutorial already, because you should know the characteristics of Romanticism and that religion wasn't really a part of it, and they talk mostly about religion. So some notes about it. He is trying to emphasize that everybody dies. Everybody dies in the natural world. No matter what happens, everybody and everything dies. And the only way that we're going to remember people is for what they've done. So if you want to be remembered, do things to be remembered. And he brings up Oliver Cromwell and John Milton. He makes allusions to them and the fact that like we still remember them, but even people who do all the work and are toiling in the fields and all of that, like they deserve to be remembered too, but they won't be. And even famous people die, everybody dies. And so just kind of using that information about the poem and then what you've learned about Romanticism from the tutorial, talk about why religion is not a part of it. Okay, paraphrasing a poem. Okay, so we're going to read My Heart Leaps Up and then talk about that. So I'm going to find that one. Okay. I had really good notes on this the first time I taught this, and I don't have them now. My heart leaps up when I behold a rainbow in the sky. So it was when my life began. So it is now I am a man. So be it when I shall grow old or let me die. The child is the father of the man, and I could wish my days to be bound each to each by natural piety. So my heart leaps up when I behold a rainbow in the sky. I get really excited when I see a rainbow. It's been like that since I was born. It's like that now, even though I'm like a total grown up. Hopefully I still get excited by this when I'm an like old man, or if I'm not excited by seeing rainbows in the sky anymore, then just let me die. Because like if I don't find rainbows still beautiful, like what's the point? So that's paraphrasing it, right? We're taking what the main concept of what he's saying is and kind of rewriting it. So how do you understand the poem better now? Because I explained it that way. So hopefully that helped you. If not, rewind and rewatch that part. Cool. And then part C, compare and contrast the treatment of nature. So first in that long one, and then I'm going to read another poem called Tintern Abbey. How do they treat nature? So remember, nature is an inevitable thing that surrounds us. We can't change it. It is nature. Death is part of nature. Life is part of nature. All of that is a big thing that's happening in the elegy poem. And then, sorry, we're looking at an abbey. To find it. Of course, it's also long. All right. 5 years have passed. 5 summers with the length of 5 long winters, and again I hear these waters rolling from their mountain springs with a soft inland murmur. Once again do I behold these steep and lofty cliffs that on a wild, secluded scene impress thoughts of more deep seclusion, and connect the landscape with the quiet of the sky. The day is come when I again repose here under this dark sycamore, and view these plots of cottage ground, these orchard tufts, which at the season, with their unripe fruits, are clad in one green hue, and lose themselves mid groves and copses. Once again I see these hedgerows, hardly hedgerows, little lines of sportive wood run wild. These pastoral farms, green to the very door, and wreaths of smoke sent up in silence from among the trees, with some uncertain notice, as might seem, of vagrant dwellers in the houseless woods, or of some hermit's cave where by his fire the hermit sits alone. These beauteous forms, through a long absence, have not been to me as is a landscape to a blind man's eye, but oft in lonely rooms and mid the din of towns and cities I have owed to them, in hours of weariness, sensations sweet, felt in the blood and felt along the heart, and passing even into my purer mind, with tranquil restoration. Feelings too of unremembered pleasure, such, perhaps, as to have no slight or trivial influence on that best portion of a good man's life, his little, nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and of love. Nor less, I trust, to them I may have owed another gift, of aspect more sublime, that blessed mood of which the burthen of the mystery, in which the heavy and the weary weight of all this unintelligible world is lightened, that serene and blessed mood in which the affections gently lead us on, until the breath of this corporeal frame, and even the motion of our human blood almost suspended, we are laid asleep in body, and become a living soul, while with an eye made quiet by the power of harmony and the deep power of joy, we see into the life of things. If this be but a vain belief, yet, oh, how oft, in darkness and amid the many shapes of joyless day, when the fretful stir unprofitable and the fever of the world have hung upon the beatings of my heart, how oft in spirit have I turned to thee, O Sylvan, why, thou wanderer through the woods, how often has my spirit turned to thee? And now, with gleams of half-extinguished thought, with many recognitions dim and faint, and somewhat of a sad perplexity, the picture of the mind revives again, while here I stand not only with the sense of present pleasure, but with pleasing thoughts that in this moment there is life and food for future years. And so I dare to hope, though changed, no doubt, from what I was when first I came among these hills, when like a roe I bounded over the mountains, by the sides of the deep rivers, and the lonely streams, wherever nature led, more like a man flying from something that he dreads than one who sought the thing he loved. For nature then, the coarser pleasure of my boyish days and their glad animal movements all gone by, to me was all in all. I cannot paint what then I was. The sounding cataract haunted me like a passion. The tall rock, the mountain, and the deep and gloomy wood, their colors and their forms, were then to me an appetite, a feeling and a love, that had no need of a remoter charm, by thought supplied, nor any interest unborrowed from the eye. That time is past, and all its aching joys are now no more, and all its dizzy raptures. Not for this faint, I, nor mourn nor murmur. Other gifts have followed for such loss, I would believe abundant recompense. For I have learned to look on nature, not as the hour of thoughtless youth, but hearing oftentimes the sad, still music of humanity, nor harsh nor grating, though of ample power to chasten and subdue. I have felt the presence that disturbs me with the joy of elevated thoughts, a sense sublime of something far more deeply interfused, whose dwellings is the light of setting suns, and the round ocean, and the living air, and the blue sky, and in the minds of man, a motion and a spirit that impels all thinking things, all objects of all thought, and rolls through all things. Therefore I am still a lover of the meadow and the woods and mountains, and of all that we behold from this green earth, all of the mighty world of eye and ear, both what they half create and what perceive, well pleased to recognize in nature in the language of the sense the anchor of my purest thoughts, the nurse, the guide, the guardian of my heart, and soul of all my moral being. Nor perchance if I were not thus taught should I the more suffer my genial spirits to decay. For thou art with me here upon the banks of this fair river, thou, my dearest friend, my dear, dear friend, and in thy voice I catch the language of my former heart, and read my former pleasures in the shooting lights of thy wild eyes. Oh, yet a little while may I behold in thee what I once was, my dear sister, and this prayer I make, knowing that nature never did betray the heart that loved her. 'Tis her privilege, through all the years of this our life, to lead from joy to joy. For she can so inform the mind that is within us, so impress with quietness and beauty, so feed with lofty thoughts, that neither evil tongues, rash judgment, nor the sneers of selfish men, nor greetings where no kindness is, nor all the dreary intercourse of daily life, shall ever prevail against us, or disturb our cheerful faith that all which we behold is full of blessings. Therefore, let the moon shine on thee in thy solitary walk, and let the misty mountain winds be free to blow against thee. And in after years, when these wild ecstasies shall be matured into sober pleasure, when thy mind shall be a mansion for all lovely forms, thy memory be as a dwelling place for all sweet sounds and harmonies, O then, if solitude or fear or pain or grief should be thy portion, with what healing thoughts of tender joy wilt thou remember me, and these my exhortations. Nor, perchance, if I should be where I no more can hear thy voice, nor catch from thy wild eyes these gleams of past existence, wilt thou then forget that on the banks of this delightful stream we stood together, and that I, so long a worshipper of nature, hither came, unwearied in that service? Rather say, with warmer love, oh, with what far deeper zeal of holier love! Nor wilt thou then forget that after many wanderings, many years of absence, these steep woods and lofty cliffs, and this green pastoral landscape were to me more dear, both for themselves and for thy sake. Okay, so what how are they talking about the difference in nature? So Gray is really talking about death, right? And that's what his relation to nature is. And he uses nature as a way to develop a tone that fits with that idea of death. Um, and then Wordsworth, though, is really he's talking about nature. It is the subject of the poem, but he's talking about how much he loves it and how pure it is and how full of innocence it is. It gives him it heals him. It's good for his soul, that whole thing. Um, and then Gray just again continues to talk about how everything is wasted because everything dies, and that includes nature. Real downer. Okay, so hopefully that helps guide you on that bit of information there. And then for this last one, so from the table below, choose 2 of the 4, which is hilarious because there are 5 words. So choose 2 of the 5 words listed, each of which is shown in bold. And so you're going to find a synonym for the words, and then you're going to write a new sentence. You can use a thesaurus. Guess what? Go to thesaurus.com. It's a website. It's a thesaurus. And you can look up these words, get a synonym, and then you need to use a sample or write out an actual sentence. And then you're done with the Introduction to Romanticism tutorial. So, cool.